Okay, so we're at the point right now where we want to line up our trim. I've cut myself 2 pieces of little flowers that I'm going to make instead of my ribbon right here. So that's what these little dots are for. See these little dots right here? What you're going to do is you're going to take your trim and you're going to line it up so it ends right here. So when you fold your fabric in, that piece of ribbon is going to be caught inside the dart. It looks harder than it is. It's not hard. Okay, so here's my dot that I put on my fabric, and I'm going to take a pin right in the middle of that spot, and I'm going to pin it. So I know when I turn this over to line up my fabric on line up my trim that I want that to reach that dot right there, that piece of pin on the other side. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Put a pin in it. Okay, so now I have that. So when I turn this over, I'm going to be able to see exactly where those 2 pins are. Do you see that? Okay. So now I'm going to take my trim and I'm going to cut it down to be exactly to fit between those 2 pin marks. And that's where I'm going to tack that ribbon down. So then I know when I sew that dart, it's going to catch right in between that. So if you have any leftover ribbon or you've cut too wide, just trim it off. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this here where the 1 pin is and the other pin, and make sure that I'm right in the middle of that fabric. So I'm going to get some more pins out. I have the camera sitting on the table. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so then here's the pin. I'm going to pin it right here, right where that pin was on the other side. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to pin the opposite side. And if I find out I'm not in the middle, I'm going to trim some more of it off. Okay, so make sure you have exactly the flower in the middle, or whatever your ribbon in the middle, your bow, and then pin it down right where you see that pin. Okay, so you can either tack these down with your sewing machine, or you can just tack them down with a couple. I'm going to cut that one off too. Okay, so now we've got the one laid out, so now we're going to do the same thing to the one up here on top. And we're going to have a smaller area, we're going to have a smaller area to work with, so you can either drop it a little bit if you need more room with a bigger ribbon, which I'm going to do. So I've dropped it about not even 1/8 of an inch underneath where that dot was, because I don't have enough. I want to make sure that ribbon gets enclosed in this dart. So here's my dot, here's my other dart. I'm going to drop it right down underneath a little bit. Okay. Okay, so now I've got my 2 pin marks on the front, dead center in my dart, and I'm going to take the other one and I'm going to line it up. I'm going to line my flowers up directly on top of each other, exactly where that other flower is, so it looks like it belongs together. Then I'm going to tack it down, and I'm going to cut off any extra residue. I just want to make sure that they both match. Okay, this one's a little big on this side, so I'm going to cut this one down. I'm going to set it there. I'm going to pin it. I'm going to line it right up with that pin from the opposite side. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. Make sure that I have enough ribbon to go across. They're lined up in the middle, and pin it. Okay, so now I'm ready to just take a needle and thread and just put a couple tacks in here, and then when I come back we'll put the dart in. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try and get a couple close-ups for a couple darts so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Here is I took my sewing machine and tacked them down. So if you have any little ribbons that are hanging, you're probably going to want to cut them out, because you don't want those sticking out of your dart or in the way of your dart. You're probably not going to have this problem. It's just because this ribbon has that brown that goes up and down, and whatever. That's why I have that loose stuff there. Okay, so let's just go ahead and try one of these out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dart and I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to pinch at the top. Let me see if you can see that. I'm going to pinch at the top and I'm going to put a pin in it. And then down at the bottom I'm going to line up these two. Now this is excuse me, this is linen, so it's going to fray a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, so put a pin in here and make sure that when your pin goes through, it touches the same line of pencil mark or tracing mark, whatever you used on the other side, and that they're exactly even. So put a little pinch in it and then fold it, and then do one in the middle just for good measure to make sure that you have the dart lined up on both sides. Okay, so if you don't, just move it around until you get it. Okay, hold on just a second. I'm going to see if this light's too bright on the camera. Okay, well, that's probably better. Let me try it like this. Okay, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I do darts wrong. I don't do darts the way they teach you how to do darts in school or sewing class. They'll tell you to start here and go up to the top of the dart and then sew off the dart and then put a knot up here to finish your dart. I do it the opposite way, especially when it's on such small fabric such as this. What I'll do is I'll go to the top of my dart and let me show you how I do it. I go to the top of my dart and I line my sewing machine up about 3 stitches in from the very tip of that dart. So let me do that right now. I'm going to line that up. Let me see, I can't sew and hold the camera at the same time, but I'm about 3 stitches away from the top of that dart on that to stitch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to back stitch till I'm completely off of that dart. So let me go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3. Now my sewing machine needle is not on the fabric whatsoever. I am off of the fabric. So now I'm going to line up my pencil line in the middle of my sewing machine, and I'm going to follow it down. So I'm sewing opposite of what they'll tell you how to do that in your sewing class. And the reason I do it this way is because when you're working on such small pieces of fabric, what's going to happen is half of the time you're going to end up getting all this fabric inside your feed dogs. So I just do it this way, and I never have to worry about getting that fabric eaten up. Okay, so here we go to the very end. And then when you reach the end of your dart, you can back stitch a few times, or you can just go off the edge because you're going to have a seam down there or a hem or whatever. Okay, so there was your first dart with catching that trim inside of that dart. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and we're going to catch the rest of this trim inside the other dart, just like that. Okay, I'm not going to do it on camera. But then now the same thing is going to be on the back darts. You're going to fold your dart in half, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to work my way down. So let me do this one on the back of this. So see how you got that little edge right there? So put a pin in it. Make sure that you're lined up on the other side. If you're not lined up in that triangle, then take it out and put it down again. That's what I meant when I was tracing the pattern. If you have that line in the middle here, you wouldn't be doing this because you would just be folding your dart right on that line. So if it helps you to do that, then by all means draw a line right down the center of your dart. Okay, so check it again, make sure, especially when you're dealing with something like this, you want to have a good fit, because just a little bit off on each of these darts can cause the blouse to be not so much, you know, the darts, but every little these clothes are fitted clothes, so you really do want to get them as close fitting as possible. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to start my needle about, I don't know if you can see that. Let me see what you're looking at. I'm going to start my needle here. I'm going to go back three stitches. I'm going to go off of the fabric, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to follow this line all the way down and then turn a little bit at the end. So let's line up our needle, about 3 stitches in, back stitch 3 times till you're off of the fabric. One more. Okay, took me off the fabric. Now I'm coming back on the fabric. I'm following the line of the dart. Okay, I've got to the point where I'm going to turn, so I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to turn my fabric, line it up. I didn't go far enough. Okay, one more. Turn it, and then I'm going to follow that fabric down. Okay, I'm going to stitch back a couple. Okay. Okay, so that is your back, and then these ones you can just cut off. Okay, so open up your dart and see what it looks like. And it should be, you shouldn't have any kind of glitch or anything. It should be a smooth fitting dart. Now, because we made that turn, you're going to have a little extra fabric on the bottom, and this is what you're going to use to ease in the folds of the bottom skirt. Okay, you need a little bit extra there. If it would have been straight down with all that folds in that fabric, it wouldn't fit your doll's waist. So that's why they give you that little extra on the bottom to give you that fitted, molded look. So there's your first dart. Okay, I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to finish making up the rest of the darts. The side darts are exactly the same way. Fold, start at the top, work your way down, and back stitch. Okay.